Elena's decision sent ripples through the Horizon's command deck. Her executive officer, Commander Jackson, shot her a concerned glance. Captain, without Earth's authorization. If we wait for a committee to debate this for months, the invitation might expire, Elena said, her eyes never leaving the holographic alien. Sometimes history needs a push. The alien, who had introduced itself as Ambassador Zenith, tilted its luminescent head. A wise decision, Captain Chen. The Confederation has observed that excessive deliberation is often the mark of species who never leave their home systems. Within hours, the Horizon communications array was flooded with urgent messages from Earth. Government officials demanded explanations, military commanders issued threats, and news networks somehow caught wind of the situation despite the communication blackout protocols. Elena sat alone in her quarters, watching Earth's reaction unfold on her tablet. The crystalline object, which Zenith called a harbinger beacon, now pulsed in synchronization with the ship's systems, interfacing with human technology as if it had been designed to do so all along. A knock at her door revealed Dr. Marcus Wong, the ship's exobiologist, clutching his tablet with trembling hands. "Captain, I've been analyzing the data from the beacon. It's impossible." Elena gestured for him to continue. "The material isn't just unknown to us. It shouldn't exist according to our understanding of physics. It's maintaining quantum coherence at room temperature, and the energy signature suggests it's drawing power from somewhere else. Not our universe, possibly." Before Elena could respond, her communications officer called over the intercom. "Captain, you need to see this. Every screen on Earth, televisions, phones, computers, they're all showing the same message." Elena rushed to the bridge, where the main view screen displayed what billions on Earth were seeing. "Greetings, humans. Welcome to the galaxy." The message pulsed in every language simultaneously, somehow comprehensible to all viewers regardless of their native tongue. "They bypassed our entire communications infrastructure," Jackson whispered. "If they can do this, then accepting their invitation might have been our only real option all along," Elena finished. The Harbinger beacon suddenly projected a new hologram, a three-dimensional map of the galaxy with a pulsing light, marking a location approximately 40 light-years from Earth. "These are the coordinates for the Nexus hub," Zenith's voice explained, though the alien was no longer visible. "A Confederation escort vessel will arrive in 3 of your Earth days to transport your representatives. Please select no more than 5 individuals who represent the best qualities of your species." Elena felt the weight of the galaxy on her shoulders. How do you choose 5 humans to represent billions? Scientists? Artists? Politicians? Warriors? Philosophers? "One final note," Zenith added, as if sensing her dilemma. "Choose those who can adapt. The galaxy is far stranger than humans have imagined, even in your most creative fiction. Those who cannot bend will break." As the message ended, Elena looked at her crew, the best and brightest Earth had to offer, now standing at the threshold of a new era for humanity. Whatever came next would reshape human history forever. "Send a message to Earth," she said quietly. "Tell them to start choosing wisely. We have 3 days to prepare for the stars." Sanjay steadied himself against a curved wall as the hallucinogenic effects of the alien beverage gradually subsided. The corridor around him still shimmered occasionally, alien architecture seeming to breathe with impossible geometries. He checked his translator implant, a hybrid of human and Arcturian technology that had been hastily installed before his departure from Earth. "Are you experiencing continued sensory disruptions, Dr. Patel?" Kalax materialized beside him, the crystalline being's facets catching the ambient light in hypnotic patterns. "I'm fine," Sanjay lied, not wanting to appear weaker than he already had. "Just processing all this information." Kalax's crystalline form resonated with what Sanjay had come to recognize as amusement. "Your neural response to the shimmer draft was most unusual." The council members were quite impressed, Most carbon-based life forms experience complete cognitive shutdown upon accidental consumption. Lucky me, Sanjay muttered, remembering the embarrassment of collapsing during the formal reception. He'd simply thought the glowing liquid was some form of ceremonial wine. As they continued through the Nexus hub, Sanjay noticed the stares from other alien species. Some appeared curious, others openly hostile. A group of tall, willowy beings with translucent skin whispered among themselves, their movements creating subtle harmonic tones that his translator couldn't process. "They're discussing your species' unusual development curve," Klax explained. "The Vosarians evolved over 12 million years to achieve space travel. They find humanity's rapid advancement concerning." Sanjay nodded politely toward them, earning what appeared to be expressions of surprise. "How long did the Arcturians take to reach the stars?" he asked Klax. "Approximately 3 million years from sentience to superluminal travel," Klax answered. "Your species accomplished it in less than 10,000. Such acceleration is unprecedented." They paused at a massive viewport offering a staggering view of the galaxy's spiral arm. Countless stars scattered like diamond dust against the void. The Nexus hub's position offered a perspective no human had ever witnessed before. "It's beautiful," Sanjay whispered. "Indeed. Many find comfort in such perspectives when feeling overwhelmed." Klax hesitated before adding, "Your quarters are prepared. Tomorrow you'll meet with the Specialization Committee to determine humanity's potential role in the Confederation." As Klax departed, Sanjay lingered at the viewport, his mind still partially affected by the alien drink. Something about Klax's phrasing bothered him. Not contributions, but role. Like humanity was being assigned a function rather than welcomed as equals. He was about to turn away when he noticed 2 elder council members enter a private chamber nearby, their conversation partially audible through his still-enhanced senses. Human neural plasticity exceeds projections. Potential applications against the void. Useful tools if properly directed. Expendable if necessary. The door sealed, cutting off their voices. Sanjay stood frozen, the magnificent galactic view forgotten as their words echoed in his mind. The welcoming ceremony, the cultural exchange, the promises of technology sharing. Was it all elaborately staged? Were humans being assessed not as potential allies but as resources to be utilized? He needed to find the other human representatives. Carefully, deliberately, Sanjay walked away from the viewport, maintaining the appearance of an honored guest while his mind raced with newfound suspicion. The Confederation's hospitality suddenly felt like a gilded cage, and he couldn't help but wonder what exactly they expected humans to fight on their behalf. The alien instructor, Professor Foreltan of the Mentary species, with 8 eye stalks that moved independently, circled Diana's workstation with undisguised fascination. The classroom had fallen silent, every non-human student staring at the crude sketch she'd made on her tablet. "Explain your methodology, Colonel Washington," Foreltan requested, voice modulator creating perfectly accented English. Diana shifted uncomfortably. "It's just a shortcut we use in flight school. When plotting gravity-assisted trajectories, you can visualize the gravity wells as a topographical map, and essentially," she paused, searching for words, "slide down the most efficient path rather than calculating each vector separately. You visualize 4-dimensional space-time topography mentally." One of the Vexari students asked, their bioluminescent tendrils pulsing with what Diana had learned was their expression of disbelief. "Well, yeah, don't you?" Diana replied. The resulting silence answered her question. Professor Foreltan's primary eye stalks converged on her tablet. Humans utilize intuitive spatial reasoning to bypass computational steps. Fascinating. The professor turned to address the class. What Colonel Washington has demonstrated isn't mathematically novel. The equations behind her method exist in our advanced texts, but the cognitive approach is unprecedented. While we teach computation first and intuition later, humans appear to develop both simultaneously. Diana's communicator buzzed with a message from Dr. Yun. the physicist representative from Earth stationed in the Technology Exchange Division. Meeting. Emergency. Botanical Gardens. 1800 hours. After class, Diana retreated to her quarters, processing what had just happened. She hadn't thought her solution was special, just a practical approach any pilot would use. Yet the other students, some from civilizations that had been spacefaring when humans were still figuring out agriculture, had acted like she performed some kind of miracle. At precisely 1800 hours, Diana entered the vast botanical gardens, a sprawling ecosystem containing plant life from across the galaxy. Dr. Yuan was waiting beside a massive fern-like structure that created a natural privacy screen. "They're studying us," Yuan whispered without preamble. "Not just diplomatically. They've been running tests, monitoring our neural patterns, analyzing our problem-solving approaches. I've seen the data they're collecting." "That doesn't sound so strange," Diana replied cautiously. "We're studying them too." "No, you don't understand." Yuan pulled out a small device that projected holographic brain scans. "These are comparative neural pathways. The average Confederation species has highly specialized cognition, neural pathways optimized for specific types of problems. But human brains," he swiped to a different image. "We're chaotic. Our neural pathways reconfigure constantly, forming connections across domains that they consider completely separate disciplines." Diana processed this information. "So what you're saying is, what you did today in class, it registers as practically impossible to them. You combine spatial reasoning, physics, and intuitive mathematics in a way their brains aren't wired to do. Their evolutionary path rewarded specialization. Ours rewarded adaptability." A soft rustle of leaves interrupted them. Diana turned to see Ambassador Calax emerging from behind the massive fern, crystalline form shimmering in the garden's ambient light. "Your observations are quite accurate, Dr. Yuan," Calax said, moving closer, though incomplete. Diana instinctively reached for a weapon she wasn't carrying. "You were spying on us." "Observing," Calax corrected. "Just as we have been observing humanity for centuries. What Dr. Yuan has discovered is merely the beginning. The question you should be asking is, why does the Confederation suddenly need humans with these particular cognitive abilities? What threat could be so great that even our advanced technology cannot overcome it without your unique perspective?" "This can't be right," Diana whispered, her eyes scanning the holographic data Sanjay had extracted from the restricted archives. They sat huddled in the forgotten maintenance sector, surrounded by humming machinery that masked their conversation from potential surveillance. Sanjay wiped sweat from his brow. "I verified it 3 times. The void isn't just consuming star systems, it's accelerating. According to these projections, it's adapted to every countermeasure the Confederation has deployed." The hologram showed a time lapse of galaxy sectors disappearing into nothingness, not exploding, not transforming, simply ceasing to exist. Entire civilizations, some far more advanced than humanity, erased from reality. "But what exactly is it?" Diana asked, zooming in on the phenomenon's boundary. "Not a black hole, not dark matter." "They don't know," Sanjay said, his voice hollow. "The Confederation has encountered nothing like it in nearly 50,000 years of recorded history. Their most advanced scientific minds have developed 17 different theories, all equally valid, all equally useless in stopping its advance." Diana remembered Calax's cryptic words in the botanical garden. "So this is why they need us. But what can humans possibly do against this?" Sanjay pulled up another classified file, footage of the Arcturian High Council in private session. The translation overlay wasn't perfect, but the meaning was clear enough. "The humans display cognitive patterns we haven't observed since the precursor extinction," one elder stated. "Their neural pathways form connections across disparate knowledge domains without structured training." Another elder, identifiable as the Council Archon, responded. "Their technological development is primitive, but their problem-solving methodology is unique. They approach obstacles from perspectives that would never occur to us. They're speaking about us like we're some kind of weapon, Diana muttered. Or a last resort, Sanjay countered. Look at the timestamp on this footage. It's from nearly 80 Earth years ago. They've been watching us, studying our development, waiting for the right moment to make contact. A third Arcturian in the footage spoke. The unpredictability of human cognition is precisely what we require. The void appears to anticipate logical responses, adapting to mathematical certainties. Humans rely on intuition, approximation, and creative leaps that defy prediction. They may see patterns where our specialized minds cannot. Diana stared at the footage in disbelief. They'd known about this threat for decades, watched it consume entire civilizations, and did nothing but observe us like lab rats. Not nothing, Sanjay said grimly, pulling up one final classified document. They've been subtly influencing human development. Certain technological breakthroughs, scientific insights that seem to appear simultaneously across Earth. These weren't coincidences. The Confederation has been nurturing our potential, guiding our evolution without direct intervention. The emergency alert klaxons cut through their conversation, red warning lights flooding the maintenance sector. The station's AI voice echoed through every corridor. Attention all species. Void breach detected in the Lumini sector. Evacuation protocols initiated for affected systems. All military personnel report to designated stations immediately. Diana and Sanjay exchanged horrified looks as the AI continued. Time to void contact with Nexus Hub. Estimated 37 standard cycles if current acceleration continues. That's less than 3 Earth weeks, Sanjay whispered. Diana stood, military training taking over. Then we have 3 weeks to figure out what humans see that they don't. The greatest minds in the galaxy failed to stop this thing. Now it's our turn to try. As they rushed from their hiding place, neither noticed the small surveillance drone that had been watching silently from the shadows, its feed transmitting directly to the Arcturian High Council chamber. Structural integrity at 62%, reported Lieutenant Kessler, her fingers dancing across the retrofitted control panel of the horizon. The ship shuddered as another wave of spatial distortion washed over them. Captain Chen gripped her command chair, watching the holographic display as the other 2 human vessels, Pathfinder and Dauntless, executed the chaotic maneuver pattern she devised. No Confederation ship would attempt such a seemingly random approach, yet the erratic movements were keeping them just ahead of the Void's predictive consumption patterns. They called us primitive, Chen muttered to herself, but they never considered that primitive might be an advantage. The Confederation fleet maintained their perfect geometric formation at a safe distance, their commanders watching in disbelief as the tiny human ships danced along the edge of oblivion. The massive Lumini evacuation arcs struggled to gain distance, their propulsion systems designed for efficiency rather than speed. Captain, the quantum disruptors are charged to 87%, called out Chief Engineer Rodriguez. But the power coupling is starting to degrade. If we wait for a full charge, we won't survive that long, Chen finished. 87 will have to do. Prepare to deploy on my mark. The comms channel erupted with the voice of the Confederation Admiral. Human vessels, retreat immediately. Our models indicate 0 probability of survival if you maintain your current course. Chen allowed herself a grim smile. That's the advantage of being human, Admiral. We don't always trust the models. She switched channels. Pathfinder, Dauntless, status report. Pathfinder ready to deploy, came Commander Abara's steady voice. Though our engineers are threatening mutiny over what we're doing to their engines. Dauntless standing by, reported Captain Santiago, her transmission interspersed with static. Hull breach on Deck 3, but we've sealed it. Life support stable. For now. Chen took a deep breath. Deploy quantum disruptors on my mark. 3, 2, 1. Mark. All 3 human vessels fired simultaneously. The experimental devices, cobbled together from Confederation theoretical science and human practical ingenuity, streaking toward the advancing wall of nothingness that marked the void's boundary. For one horrible moment, nothing happened. Chen felt her heart sink. Then, like ripples on a dark pond, the edge of the void began to waver. The nothingness seemed to hesitate, its inexorable advance slowing visibly. "It's working," shouted Kessler. "The void's consumption rate has decreased by 37%. The Confederation command channel exploded with chatter, their disbelief palpable even through the translator. Chen ignored them, focusing on the Lumini evacuation status. "Captain," her tactical officer called, "the last Lumini arc has cleared the danger zone. They're transmitting. It appears to be some kind of song." The bridge filled with an ethereal harmony as the Lumini broadcast their gratitude. A haunting, beautiful melody that somehow conveyed emotions beyond what the translator could process. A violent shudder ran through the asterisk horizon asterisk. "Disruptor effect destabilizing," Rodriguez warned. "The void is adapting. We've got minutes at most before it resumes full advance." "That's all we needed," Chen said, her voice steady despite the chaos around her. "All vessels, execute emergency withdrawal pattern Omega. We've done what we came to do." As the human ships limped away from the boundary, trailing debris and venting atmosphere in places, the Confederation fleet parted to make way for them. There was no formal communication, but Chen could sense the shift in attitude. Hours ago, they had been primitive curiosities. Now they were something else entirely. "Transmission from the Nexus Hub," Captain Kessler announced. "Priority channel. It's the Arcturian High Council." Chen straightened in her chair, wincing at the pain from a gash on her forehead she hadn't even noticed receiving. "Put them through." The face of the Council Archon appeared on the main screen, crystalline features arranged in what Chen had learned to recognize as profound astonishment. "Captain Chen," the Archon began, "the Confederation owes you and your crews a debt we cannot calculate. You have accomplished what our theorists deemed impossible." Chen allowed herself a tired smile. "Not impossible, Archon, just improbable. Humans have a long history of beating the odds. The evidence is undeniable," Sanjay continued, his voice echoing through the Grand Confederation Assembly Chamber. Behind him, holographic displays showed comparative problem-solving approaches across species. The galaxy's most advanced civilizations have evolved toward specialization, achieving remarkable depths of knowledge, but sacrificing cognitive flexibility in the process. Murmurs rippled through the assembled delegates. Some leaned forward with fascination, others shifted uncomfortably or displayed their species' equivalent of indignation. For millions of years, this specialization served the Confederation well, Sanjay acknowledged. But the void operates outside established parameters. It cannot be defeated using the same thought patterns that failed to predict its existence. An elder Vosarian rose, her translucent skin pulsing with bioluminescent patterns of disagreement. "You propose we abandon 15 millennia of proven methodologies based on 3 human ships getting lucky." Sanjay met her gaze steadily. "I propose we recognize that luck might be exactly what we need. Humans don't just think differently. We think chaotically, making connections that specialized cognition would dismiss as illogical." He gestured to the display showing human neural activity compared to other species. "Our brains form temporary networks based on immediate needs rather than hardwired specializations. Earth's harsh environmental shifts and constant predatory threats meant humans who couldn't rapidly adapt simply didn't survive." The assembly erupted in debate. The Arcturian representative's crystalline form vibrated at frequencies indicating deep consideration, while several elder species withdrew into conferring clusters. A Mentary scientist extended 4 eye stalks in Sanjay's direction. "If what you suggest is correct, then the Confederation's approach to the void has been fundamentally flawed. We've been seeking a perfect solution when we should have been experimenting with imperfect ones." "Exactly," Sanjay said, relief evident in his voice as someone finally understood. "The void adapts to predictable responses. Captain Chen's mission succeeded precisely because the approach appeared irrational. The void couldn't anticipate it. From her position in the observer's gallery, Diana watched the proceedings with growing hope. Beside her sat representatives from 30 different species, the core of her cross-species think tank, carefully selected for their willingness to question established doctrine. "He's winning them over," whispered Jotak, a young Arcturian scientist whose crystal structure displayed unusually fluid patterns for their species. The younger generations have been questioning the rigid hierarchy for centuries, but never had cause to challenge it openly until now. Diana nodded, her attention fixed on the central floor where the debate had intensified. The old guard won't surrender power easily. They've built their entire civilization on the premise that age equals wisdom. Perhaps both approaches have merit, Jotak suggested. The depth of specialized knowledge combined with human adaptive thinking. Before Diana could respond, an alarm tone sounded throughout the chamber. The holographic displays shifted automatically to show a real-time feed from the outer systems. The void had just consumed an uninhabited star system in a single surge, 3 times faster than any previous expansion. The chamber fell silent as the implications became clear. The void was evolving, accelerating despite their efforts to contain it. The Arcturian Council Archon rose slowly. "Dr. Patel's theory will be put to immediate test. We authorize the formation of collaborative research teams incorporating human cognitive approaches." The Archon turned to face Diana directly. "Colonel Washington, your cross-species initiative is hereby granted full Confederation resources. Assemble your team." As the assembly dispersed with unprecedented haste, Sanjay made his way to Diana's position. "That wasn't exactly the reasoned scientific debate I had hoped for," he said quietly. Diana's expression was grim but determined. Nothing motivates change like existential terror. "The question is whether we can harness that fear before it paralyzes them, or before the void reaches us. Intuition plus expertise equals innovation," Captain Chen explained to the diverse crew assembled on the bridge of the Celestial Horizon, the first true human Confederation hybrid vessel. What had once been the mining ship Horizon was now barely recognizable, transformed through a fusion of technologies and philosophies. The Confederation has spent millennia perfecting techniques for specific scenarios, she continued, pacing before the gathered officers from 17 different species. But the void doesn't follow rules. It adapts. So must we. At the tactical station, a Lumini officer named Elendra manipulated light patterns within a crystalline interface. "The traditional fleet has engaged the void at the predicted coordinates, Captain. They're following standard containment protocol Delta." Chen nodded. "And as we've seen 7 times before, that approach will fail within hours. Lieutenant Kresick, what's the status of our experimental systems?" The Vexari lieutenant's tendrils pulsed with nervous energy as they responded. "Human Arcturian quantum disruptors are operational but untested at this scale. The Lumini human photon lattice is stable. Mentary predictive algorithms combined with human randomization subroutines are functioning unpredictably." "Perfect," Chen said with a smile that confused several of the non-human crew members. "If we can't predict our own actions, neither can the void." In the observation deck of the Nexus Hub, Colonel Washington stood beside Dr. Patel, watching as the mixed species crews prepared for deployment. The vast chamber had been transformed from a serene meditation space into what the Confederation elders disapprovingly called a human-style chaos room. Teams of scientists from dozens of species worked side by side, their traditional hierarchies abandoned in favor of what Diana had dubbed collaborative anarchy. Young Arcturians discussed theoretical physics with elderly human mathematicians. Lumini lightshapers demonstrated their art to human painters who offered suggestions that would have been considered sacrilege months earlier. "They're starting to get it," Diana said quietly. "Not just copying our methods but understanding the principles behind them." Sanjay nodded, watching a group of Mentari and human children playing together with a puzzle that constantly reconfigured itself. The young ones adapt fastest. The Mentari children are already showing neural patterns similar to humans, forming temporary problem-solving networks rather than following established protocols. A soft chime announced the arrival of Clax, the crystalline being's form now displaying patterns that would have been considered alarmingly irregular among traditional Arcturians. "The Council has reviewed your latest proposal," Clax announced. "They have, reluctantly, approved the formation of the Adaptive Defense Protocol. All Confederation resources are now at your disposal." Diana raised an eyebrow. "Reluctantly." Clax's crystal structure flickered with what they had learned was amusement. "The Council has existed for 12,000 years without significant structural change. In the past 3 months, humans have upended virtually every aspect of Confederation society. Some adjustment difficulty is to be expected." "Speaking of adjustment," Sanjay interjected, checking his data tablet, "Captain Chen's fleet is moving into position. The void has consumed 82% of the Terrassi system. Traditional containment has failed exactly as predicted." All eyes turned to the massive holographic display dominating the center of the chamber. The celestial horizon led a mismatched fleet of vessels, some elegant Confederation designs, others bulky human ships, and several that were clearly hybrid constructions that followed no established aesthetic. "They look wrong," Clax admitted, facets shifting in what might have been discomfort. "No uniformity, no clear formation pattern." "Exactly," Diana said with fierce pride. "The void adapts to patterns. We're giving it chaos." As they watched, the hybrid fleet began an approach that no Confederation admiral would have authorized. Each ship moving on seemingly random vectors, yet somehow maintaining a cohesive strategy. The void's boundary pulsed and warped as if confused by the unpredictable maneuvers. For the first time in recorded history, the void's advance not only stopped but receded slightly. A cheer erupted across the chamber as scientists and officers alike witnessed the impossible. Diana caught Sanjay's eye, her expression a mixture of triumph and determination. "This is just the beginning," she said. The celestial horizon emerged from the encounter with the void bearing scars across its hybrid hull, but Captain Chen's satisfied expression told the story better than any mission report could. As the vessel docked with the Nexus hub, crowds of mixed species gathered in the observation galleries, something unprecedented before human arrival. 3% recovery of lost territory, Chen reported to the assembled Adaptive Council members. "The void attempted to compensate for our unpredictable movements, but our randomization algorithms stayed ahead of its adaptations." The Arcturian Council Archon's crystalline form vibrated with frequencies indicating both amazement and lingering skepticism. "What you call a victory, Captain, is merely a temporary reprieve. The void will study this encounter and adjust its approach." "Precisely why we won't use the same tactics twice," Chen replied, gesturing to her chief engineer. "Rodriguez, show them what we discovered." The engineer activated a holographic projection displaying strange energy patterns along the void's boundary. These fluctuations appeared whenever our quantum disruptors interacted with the Lumini light manipulation technology. "We believe the void has a fundamental vulnerability to certain quantum photonic interactions that weren't possible before our species collaborated." In the research laboratories 20 levels below, human scientist Dr. Maya Lakshmi worked alongside Jotak and a Lumini light shaper named Seraphil. The trio had been inseparable for weeks, combining disciplines that the Confederation had traditionally kept separate. "The wave-particle duality properties are completely different here," Maya explained, manipulating a beam of light through a hybrid apparatus. "When the Lumini light manipulation techniques are applied to quantum-entangled particles, the resonance patterns create a cascading effect." Jotak continued, crystal structure oscillating with excitement. "This could explain why the void reacted so strongly to our combined technologies." Seraphil's gossamer form rippled as they added, "Our ancestors believed light contained consciousness. Perhaps the void fears what happens when that consciousness becomes unpredictable through human influence." Word of their breakthrough spread rapidly through the Nexus hub. Species that had remained neutral were now sending representatives daily, requesting to join the Adaptive Alliance. Confederation protocols that had remained unchanged for thousands of years were being rewritten hourly as new combinations of technologies and methodologies proved effective. Diana walked through what had once been the grand meditation chamber, now transformed into the central command hub for the Alliance. Holographic displays showed dozens of ongoing missions and research initiatives, all incorporating human unpredictability with alien specialization. Engineers who would never have spoken to each other under the old hierarchy now argued passionately over design modifications. "It's beautiful chaos," Sanjay said, joining her. 6 months ago, they would have considered this room a nightmare scenario. Diana nodded. "How are the diplomatic efforts proceeding?" "Better than expected. 17 previously isolationist species have requested membership in the Alliance. They'd been watching our success against the Void and want to contribute." Sanjay's expression grew more serious. "But not everyone is convinced. The elder Vosarians and several other ancient species have formed a traditionalist bloc. They claim we're dismantling millions of years of stable civilization on an untested human whim." "They're not entirely wrong," Diana admitted. "We've changed more in months than they have in millennia. Change at this scale is frightening." Their conversation was interrupted by an urgent transmission. The holographic form of Captain Santiago of the hybrid vessel Dauntless appeared before them. "Colonel Washington, we've detected something unprecedented at the recovery zone. The Void isn't just retreating, it's transforming. Energy signatures we've never seen before are emerging along the boundary. It's as if..." "As if what, Captain?" Diana prompted when Santiago hesitated. "As if the Void is attempting to communicate," Santiago replied, her expression a mixture of wonder and apprehension. "And it's using frequencies that match our human Lumini photonic language experiments." Diana and Sanjay exchanged stunned looks. The implication was clear. The Void wasn't just a mindless cosmic phenomenon. It was an entity, possibly a consciousness, and for the first time in recorded history, it wanted to talk.